It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy, Millsy. Back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I run version 1.0 deck list of the Commander in front of us in a set budget on my quest out brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. So I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe, consider checking out all those links in the description. I appreciate it. But today, with the Everyone's Invited Secret Lair deck coming out, I thought it was only right to finally cover Morophon for the channel. I could have spun Morophon a ton of ways, but I chose to try to do that like Changeling tribal type thing, keep the deck as it was intended. I'm just changing a little bit around. I think precons are a great thing. In fact, thank you to my friend Josh, who's willing to let me open up his Everyone's Invited precon for the channel. You're going to see that up on the video, up on the channel as well today, if you're interested in seeing me and him open it. I think precons are really great things, but sometimes, Wizards focuses precons or reprints on some things. You know, the deck comes with 10 and then Morophon of new borderless cards, and all the arts are beautiful. And I think they're really cool, but there's some other parts of the deck I feel like could have been a little bit better, and that's the goal of this episode. Now, I normally try to keep myself on a pretty hard budget, or try to in the show, just because not everyone wants to spend $600 in a deck or $800 on a deck, and I think that's fair, and that's a noble thing. The problem with this episode specifically is that I wanted to show off the new arts for these cards, and almost all of them are inflated, right, because they're only available in the Secret Lair drop. Not only that, but there are some of them that just don't have prices, right, or their prices are inflated. So I put an asterisk next to the deck price, because if you chose the cheapest printings of these cards, I feel like this deck would be right down in that Millsy Brews budget. But because we're playing with these new Secret Lair art versions and then these pretty versions and all that, the deck is going to be arbitrarily raised up. Now, if you bought the precon, obviously the cost for this deck's not going to be very high, because a lot of this is very similar to the precon. I just kind of wanted to make my adjustments. There's two big things I did. One, the deck comes with a couple slivers. I think the only downside to slivers as a tribe is they're so very good at what they do, which is caring about slivers. And when you have a deck full of changelings, I think just slivers just make sense, because they make all your creatures better. I could have busted this deck's cost wide open and added every sliver legend and every sliver I could think of, but I didn't. We only added a couple key slivers, because again, all of our changelings are slivers, so we're not worried about it. The second is I added a lot of things that just lords that just buff a creature type or give something key to a creature type. Because again, remember, all of our changelings are going to be that type, but we do have cards that can just make all our creatures into a certain type if we're worried about the rest of our things. So remember that Morophon, when it comes in, right, a 7-mana 6/6 with changeling, when it comes in, you choose a type. Spells of the chosen type cost Wooburg less to cast, and then other creatures that type get +1/+1. So what I would say is you could take this deck, go completely into slivers, take every card that isn't a changeling out of the deck and make it slivers and go that route. But what I decided to do was, there's sometimes you may pick sliver for Morophon, but there are also times that you may pick something else depending on what you see. Although, truthfully, outside of the shapeshifters, there's not a ton of relevant creature types in the deck. So it may be something where you pick you pick shapeshifter because it is technically a creature type, and you go from there. So there's a lot of ways to look at the Morophon aspect of this. I think the good thing about Morophon is that it does let you say, oh, I really want to have this deck be, just trying to think of a random creature type, boar tribal. I'm going to put in a bunch of boars and all the shapeshifters, and I'm just going to call boar for Morophon, and we're good to go. So there's a lot of ways you can approach Morophon, but with approaching it as more of a changeling type deck, Morophon's choice isn't as rigid as you would think. But I want to say a quick thank you to the channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in seeing all of our videos just a little bit early, check it out down below the video. But that's what most of the deck is shapeshifter. So by shapeshifter and changeling, I want to define those terms. Shapeshifter is a creature type. Most shapeshifters have the ability changeling, meaning that they are every creature type. Now, note that changeling is not an on the battlefield ability. Changeling is an ability that affects that card at all times. So in your hand, in your library, in your graveyard, on the battlefield, they're every creature type. So this is really beneficial for Morophon, right? Because he's going to automatically reduce all of our changelings. But This will care if we have any creatures that care about casting types or those types dying. There's options there. So a lot of these aren't going to have much to talk about. Amoeboid Changeling does have the ability to have a creature gain all creature types till end of turn. This is really interesting because you may have a few creatures that aren't changelings, so you can make them a changeling till end of turn, right? Giving them that big buff. Things like a regular cohort come in with a token, which is really helpful, right? Giving you multiple bodies at once. Morit of the Frost actually comes in as a copy of any permanent we control, except it's legendary and snow, and if it's so it can come in as a copy of anything, but if it comes in as a creature, it gets a little extra buff. Mirror Entity is one of my favorite changelings because it has this great ability where for X mana, you can make all your creatures based power and toughness XX till end of turn, potentially just turning your mana into a really big turn of attacks. Unsettled Mariner can protect your board, countering it unless they play 1 for the first time. Or sorry, anytime, which is pretty great. It's a great ability to just protect your board. Give them kind of like a Ward 1 if you think about it. Black Market Connections can make you a shapeshifter every turn, meaning that it's going to have, that changeling ability, and it can get you a draw or treasure if you wanted to. Remember, for Black Market, you have to choose one each turn. So be careful if you ever get down to a low enough life total. Keep in the back of your mind. The Berzalit Jara is a saga from Kaldheim that just gets to make a couple shapeshifters. So on the first one, it makes a shapeshifter. On the second one, any number of shapeshifters you control become 4/4s. That's a great ability, considering all of them are pretty small. And then on the third one, you just choose up to one creature or planeswalker, and each of your creatures with power 4 or greater deal damage to it. I realized that the second mode of Berzalit Jar doesn't say till end of turn. It just says they have 4/4 base towers, which is cool, right? Making them bigger, making them better for us. Like I said, there are a couple slivers, if I recall correctly, that do come in the precon. I do believe Cloud Shredder and Gemhide both come in the precon. Cloud Shredder giving all of our slivers flying and haste. Again, give all our changelings that. Gemhide letting them tap for mana. But I wanted to add a couple more key slivers that I think are going to be really useful. I really like Harmonic Sliver. Basically turning all of your slivers coming in into aura shards, destroying target artifact or enchantment. That's going to help us just really shut down our opponent's, pieces at the right time. Add another one. I can't remember if Mana Weft Sliver's in there as well. Another way to have a slivers tap for mana of any color. If it is, then that's great. If not, I tried to prioritize a couple of these slivers that do that. And then I thought Sliver Hive Lord just made sense. It's just going to give all your changelings indestructible, right? And then you're at least protected from one piece of removal, right? Then you just have to worry about exile removal. But I think it'll really help. But like I said, if you wanted to lean more into slivers, I feel like this is the deck to do it. Throw in your buff slivers, throw in your combat ability slivers. I mean, this could be basically... Morophon's a great sliver commander in its own right if you really want it to be. But again, wasn't the goal of the deck, wasn't what I was trying to do with this one. What I was trying to do was take what the precon's doing and take advantage of it. So, of course, it has the new Avenger of Zendikar printing. Comes in, make a plant for each land you control. And whenever a land comes in, you put a counter on each plant you control. Remember, all your changelings are going to be plants, so they're going to get counters. Bernard gives every creature you control that's a food or a golem +2/+2 and trample. Again, killer ability here, because all of our changelings are going to get a little bit bigger. And then whenever a non-token creature we control dies, we exile it. If we do, we make a copy of it. That's a 1/1 food golem, which is an okay ability. Basically, just +2/+2 and trample for all our changelings is great, considering most of them are 1/1s or 2/2s, right? Death Baron giving all of our skeletons and zombies +1/+1 and Death Touch. Again, Death Touch is a huge ability to me because it's just going to probably make our opponents think twice about chump blocking our changelings if we attack with them. There's a huge difference between chump blocking a 1/1 and chump blocking a 2/2 with Death Touch, because now your opponent has to think about whether they really want to block, right? Curie comes in the precon. I think it's a great choice, giving all your plants and tree folk +2/+0. So again, right, that's all of our shapeshifters. And then it can just start bringing our changelings back, which is nice. That Exemplar giving all other knights +1/+1 indestructible. Again, indestructible is great, right, for our changelings, making sure they stay alive. Lyra's going to give them all +1/+1 and lifelink. Again, great. Gain some life back, make them even harder to deal with in combat. Reaper King giving all of them +1/+1. And then whenever another Scarecrow comes in, destroy target permanent. Again, now you can start taking out your opponent's things when your things come in. Risen Reef, whenever those changelings come in, you look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you put it on tapped. Otherwise, you put it into your hand. Again, a great ability. We got that new Tendershoot Dryad. giving a flat +2/+2 to all of our Saprolings if we have the City's Blessing, which is not going to be very hard in this deck. And you can see there it's sitting at $27. I think that Tender Shoe Dryad, this printing will probably sit well above the regular Tender Shoe Dryad, which is at $3 or $4. But again, you can start to see where some of those inflated prices come in. Voya is probably my pick for the creature. I'm just honestly very surprised wasn't in the deck, especially because it's only had one printing back in Murders of Karlov Manor. And it wasn't even a main set card. It was a pre-release card. But whenever it attacks, you put X counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of elves you control. Then you draw a card for each wolf you control. With all of our changelings, this should just get out of hand, and that's what we want. Void is a really great commander at what it does because it cares about elves, and elves have a great way to make multiples of them. This is even better for us because all of our changelings, which are normally small anyway, are just going to get bigger. If there's any one card I'm really honestly surprised wasn't in this deck, it was this one, because I think it fits the deck so well. Of course, we see the reprints of Raise the Palisade and Coat of Arms. Raise the Palisade, pick a type, return all creatures that aren't that type back to their owner's hands. Remember, it doesn't matter with the changelings because they're every type, so you just pick a type of another creature on your board that's prevalent, bounce everything back up. And then Coat of Arms, just giving that buff out for each creature on the battlefield that shares a type with it. Coat of Arms in a deck like this is something you got to be careful of. Josh and I actually figured this out in a game and found out the risk of it. Because all your changelings have every creature type, all of your opponent's creatures are going to get the buff off Coat of Arms for all of our creatures. So just be aware that Coat of Arms can really help your opponents in this deck. It doesn't just help us, but the hope is that we can use it more prevalently than them. Call of Spirit Dragons just makes sense. Give all of our changelings indestructible, and then we start handing out counters at the start of our upkeep, and we can still fulfill the win the game aspect on Call of Spirit Dragons. If we have 5 different changelings that are different colors, we can win the game off of Call of Spirit Dragons, which is fun. Double down. Going to copy every outlaw spell we cast, which normally would be assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks. Remember, changelings, so all of them. So we're going to double up on all of them. And then Unholy Annex. When beginning of your end step, you draw a card. If you control a demon, everybody loses 2 and you gain 2. Otherwise, you lose 2. Again, all of our changelings are demons. So that's going to be great. And we can always pay the 5 for another demon if we want it. But again, just taking advantage of the fact that we're going to have all these types laying around to get real benefit. But then, let's say we really want to lean into Sliver, or we see Voya really quickly and we want to make all of our creatures into elves so they can get these buffs, or we see Deathbearer and really want to make them all into zombies so they can get Death Touch, what have you. We have multiple copies of this ability. Arcane Adaptation and Maskwood Nexus actually both came in the deck. I wanted to make sure we added Leyline of Transformation because it does something very similar. Maskwood's still the best one of the 4, and that's because it can actually tap to make Shapeshifter tokens with Changelings. So it can actually tap to get you more of these Changeling creatures to lay around. But basically, all 3 of these, you're going to choose a type. Sorry, for Leyline and Arcane Adaptation, you're going to choose a type. All your creatures are that type. For Maskwood Nexus, it just says all of our creatures are every type. And this is pretty fun because it's going to eliminate a lot of this worry that we have over making sure we have right lords for the right thing at the right time. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again, no deck's ever complete. This is my version 1.0 shot at Morophon. And as we go into testing, I'd want to see if we need access to more shapeshifters. I thought about something like 3-Tree Mascot, which can help fix our mana a little bit. I think that makes a ton of sense since we really just care about the fact that it has Changeling. Sophia was probably one of the creatures that I cut from the deck that I really thought about putting back. Sacrificing an artifact token to put a counter on each dog we control, and then whenever a dog hits, we make a food token, right? And then investigate. So again, all of our changelings are dogs, so we're getting them. I really like Sophia. I was just trying to bring in other things like Voya and Lyra over it, but I think it's still a great option. And then I thought about something like Drog Skull Captain, giving all of our changelings hexproof. It's not as good as Death Touch or Indestructible, but I think it's still a relevant option that you have to give your whole board. But let's do what we love to do the most on the channel and get into our playtest. Remember, the goal of playtest on our channel is not to find magical Christmas land. It's not to show off all our best plays, but it's to give them some game scenarios and understand what hands would we keep and what are we looking for. Here we've got access to 4 of our 5 colors in these 3 lands, and we've got a Farseek, a way to go get. We are playing a few Triomes in the deck. I feel like we kind of have to play the Triome / Farseek Nature's Lore a little bit just to help fix our mana. But we'd also see Chromatic Lantern here, which is going to help us do that as well. And we have a couple Changelings in Shapeshare and Morit. Well, turn 1, we see Bitter Blossom. This is a really fun card, making us those fairy tokens at the start of our turn. Got that pretty new art. Really excited to see it. Turn 2 here, we see Soul Ring. There's that new art for Soul Ring. So we have the choice here. Do we want to go ahead and Farseek, which would guarantee us we get all of our colors, or do we just Chromatic Lantern this turn, which would again give us all of our colors, but I kind of like the idea of Farseek just because it gets us up a land. Truthfully, Morophon's 7 mana, right? We're going to need to get there eventually. I think we care about it. We aren't playing the Triomes, are we? I was wrong. We are not playing the Triomes. We are playing the regular Tri-lands. I apologize. I thought about putting all the Triomes in, but I didn't because of the cost. That's right. But now, remember, Amphitheater, we have to reveal a giant. Well, boom, boom, boom. We have 3 giants. We're at 6 mana. Play the Lantern to be at 4. And I think we just play the Cohort. Or do we get Bitter Blossom going? I think we play the Cohort. Get that Changeling token. Because I think it just helps us in the long run to get this stuff down with the mana when we can. There's Crib Swap, a great removal spell that destroys or exiles a creature and gives them a 1/1 shapeshifter. But I think I'll just put Morophon down here. I'm trying to decide what to pick. I mean, truthfully, I think the answer is probably Sliver for the things I can think of in my deck. Again, still buffs these guys and helps us in the future. These guys can take their attacks this turn. This turn still running into more shapeshifters, but I don't think we mind at all. Remember, Morit, if it comes in as a copy of a regular Cohort, is going to make us another shapeshifter token. So I don't even mind the idea of doing like this plus Morit, right? And Morit comes in as a copy of the Cohort. So it comes in with all of its abilities, right? So it's going to make us another shapeshifter. I apologize. This was free, right? Because of Morophon. This was only 2 mana, so we've still got plenty of mana left, right? We can dump this in for just 1 mana, right? I forgot that Morophon's reducing them all by Wooburg, right? So, that was no mana. This was 3 mana, and that was just 1 mana. So again, just setting up the board for a future turn. I feel like unfortunately we just didn't see any of our buffers here, but it's okay because Morophon's still buffing them. And we can just keep getting our changelings in. You know, we could get the Bitter Blossom down to get fairies down. Again, this is probably going to happen sometime where you see too many of the changelings and not enough of the other stuff. And I think that's just something you got to keep in the back of your mind. If that's an experience you see often, just switch up your ratios. But I think it was just a bad example of a shuffle where we saw too many shapeshifters. Here on the next one, we got a 3-lander with that Chromatic Lantern. Again, there's the Mana Whisperer to help us still tap for mana. There's the Shapeshare and then the Cohort again. So very similar starting hand. We're just seeing... So we have an elf to actually reveal here. And we could play the Changeling Outcast, right? Get it down. There's Unholy Hanax. That's going to actually help us a ton with getting some card draw, right? I think I'm willing to just do that now. Because again, now they lose on our end step because we control a demon, right? That Changeling Outcast is a demon. It could have attacked that turn. I'm sorry, it has unblockable. So I just didn't think about it. I was more worried about the setup than I was about the attack. So we got 4 mana, and these both can tap because of Mana Wife Slivers. We got 6 mana. I like the idea of Ren and Ciri. They're all... This is both a dog and a cat. This isn't, but I think that's okay. I think it's still helpful in the grand scheme of things. So I'm thinking Ren, and then play the Changeling. This gets me both a dog and a cat token. And we're just, setting ourselves up here to get more in the future. We'll draw off that. And again, the Ren and Ciri is nice because now all these changelings are both, leading to a great bottom ability. So Ren and Ciri can't tap, with Mana Wife Sliver, neither can these, because they're not slivers. So it's a good thing to remember in the back of our head that we can't just tap them all willy-nilly. Here I'm kind of thinking this is dumping in Morophon. We got a lot of shapeshifters in our hand that I feel like we can just reduce. So I think I'm just going to do this and call it Sliver. Because then, right? All of our creatures and slivers, I mean, all the shapeshifters with slivers anyway, but they're going to get the buffs, right? And all we're looking for is, right, something like, we're looking for something like the other things that can buff all of our creatures at some point. But this mana thing is going to really help us out over the course of a couple turns. Ren can attack, so can these, but we can make our decisions there, draw at the end of the turn. Now we see Lyra, so again, all these shapeshifters can now benefit from Lyra's ability. We are really low on white, so we're going to need these guys for that. This can come down. Yeah, we're in a really odd color combination right now, aren't we? Because if I go white, 1, 2, 3. This is just 1 mana, right? Because of that. I guess we could make more sense to go the lantern into this just to now completely fix our land problems. Now, I mean, if the shapeshifters didn't tap, they might as well attack if we want them to, right? With the buff and the lifelink. Sorry, this would be another cat and dog. So would Morophon. Right, so we're getting some value here with the Ren and Ciri. We'll go 1 more turn. Probably not a bad idea to look to maybe tap Ren and Ciri if we want to this turn. So Skeletal Changelings 1. Cohort would be 3. And it comes in with a that shapeshifter token. Now if I tap Ren, I have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9... 10, 11, 12 dogs, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cats. So we would dome somebody for 12 and gain 12. It's not a bad ability. And you could start to see here where, we saw Unholy Annex work. We got to see Lyra work. We got to see Ren and Ciri work. So you can start to see where I think this Changeling travel thing's really starting to show why it can be good. I think it's all about just fine-tuning what we're paying it off with, right? Here we're keeping a 3-lander with that Maskwood Nexus. Bloodline Pretender, when you come in, you pick a type. Whenever a creature that type enters, you put a counter on it. There's Kiri, and then we have an Arcane Signet for some fixing. So here I think we just start working our way up. We see the Black Market connections, which is really going to help, again, with those creatures. Either the Glen or the Amphitheater come in untapped, right, because of the Bloodline Pretender. I think I just get the land down right, or the mana down right. I'm kind of thinking of just dumping in Maskwood Nexus, but this is already fulfilled by the Shapeshifter. I've yet to see a creature type that isn't, right, something that's fulfilled by all my Shapeshifters, so I don't know that I want to commit to doing it just yet. Let's just do the Black Market connections, and we'll go from there. So we come into the next turn, we got to pick a choice. I think I'm going 5 life deep and just drawing and making a Shapeshifter just to get us something. Well, we got 5 mana. Tenderstreet Dryad feels like a near perfect choice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to start making Saplings and just immediately get there, right? Because on everybody's upkeep, we make a Sapling. So by the time it comes back to our turn, we're just golden, right? All of them, including our Shapeshifters, are getting that buff. Here, 6 mana. Coat of Arms could be dangerous. We're like 1 mana away from that. I thought that was Avenger of Zendikar. I was going to say we're like 1 mana away from an Avenger of Zendikar being a nice threat as well. Coat of Arms would be particularly brutal. We don't have any trample. Oh, sorry. We have to do the ability. I'll just make the Shapeshifter and draw again. I could pick Maskwood and turn it into anything I want. I mean, I guess it could be Sliver, and we could go digging for slivers, right? If we do that and then play Kindred Summons, we would have enough slivers to get every sliver that I have in the deck, which I think is only like 6. That doesn't seem like a terrible idea. We would have the mana for that next turn. So we pick that. We pick that for Sliver. Now they all become slivers. And then I got 2 mana, so not much I can do. Go ahead and attack with the ones we have. Again, they're all getting that. Everything now is getting that nice buff, right? And then as we come back to our next turn, right, getting a Sapling, everybody turns. If no one's taking out Tenderstreet Dryad, I think we just Kindred Summons. Calling Sliver, and we have, 11 slivers? So basically just going to reveal until we reveal X of the chosen type, where X is the number of them we have. So basically, we're just going to go get every sliver in our deck. The reason I chose it this way is because, again, they have such really great abilities. Now, the thing with Kindred Summons is they're all going to come in at the same time. So I do believe that would qualify us for 5 Harmonic Sliver triggers to knock some things out. Now, all of our creatures have Indestructible, and we just get attacking away, and I think we're in good shape. Even though the Slivers don't get that buff for the Saprolings from Tendershoe Dryad, I guess we could have, in a sense, have called Saproling and then just gone for Slivers off having the Changelings and gone that way. So I guess that's a consideration of how we probably could have got that one out differently. Here we're keeping a 2-lander, but we got the Sliver Mana Tapper. We also have a Shapeshifter or 2 in our hand. Shield of Velasvel makes a creature into all creature types on the turn, so that's going to be helpful. And then we have the Bears to make another Shapeshifter. So we've got a couple options here. We aren't too stuck. I'm kind of thinking just get the Mana Wave Sliver in. So now we got 3 mana. I like the idea of this Kadama's Reach to go kind of fix our mana. Because we had no option but the tap land, right? Or we get like Woodland Changeling down, right, and just have another one for next turn. I could just do this and then tap for 2 for the Changeling, I guess, now that I think about it that way. So that could make sense, right? Because this gives Flying and Haste, so this will come in Flying and Haste, so 2 and then 2 for the Changeling. So that's pretty good, right? Buffing our board up. Now, again, the problem is now we don't have as many of those. Like, these aren't really getting the benefits from Lyra, but Lyra would really make this better, right? 5 there. Or do we go for like that? I think we go for Lyra. Well, I guess we could also go for Morophon. I like the idea of going for Lyra and attacking here just to get some life back. If we want to do that, it's be a 3/3. I was going to say, you could make Lyra a Sliver to give it haste. If I wanted to, I could tap this to make this a Sliver to give it haste and flying, right? That's an option, I think, if I want to. I just don't know if that's the best option this turn. That would present 8 life gain. I think it's probably find a way to turn and see what happens. Well, here's another Sliver, right, and another Angel. If I bring out Morophon, this is 1 mana. Right. If I do this on Lyra, that's still only 7. Well, he's a Changeling, so he would come in with haste. So I could do this on Lyra. Morophon into the 6th Pride. Tapping Morophon for the 6th Pride. Or he gets the reduction and then tapping it. Again, I was just trying to bring as much things in as I can. Come into our next turn. Do the Lit Jara now, making the Shapeshifter. And then we could either tap a couple in to get Ren and Ciri down if we want to, or just take our big attack, right? A couple of these Shapeshifters are now lifelinking because they're angels, right? So what would we have called for Morophon? I guess Sliver, just to make the Slivers better. I guess we also could have chosen Angel, but that I guess is on us. Do we care about buffing these, or do we care about buffing the Shapeshifters more? Because if we pick Angel right now, they're all +2/+2, right? So I think that could make more sense now that I think about it. I think I like the idea of this deck because it's a very heady deck in the sense of like you kind of got to choose what you want from it. I think that I might have spread myself a teeny bit too thin with my choices. Maybe you limit your extra choices down to a couple more things and go from there. But I think the deck still functions pretty well. If we're not hitting hard enough, you could always add combat-based enchantments to help you out. But let me know what you think of Morophon down in the comment section below, and I will catch you on the next one.